going to explain to us GMRS, right?
Say again?
You're going to explain to us why we care about GMR or about multi-use radio service and why this is important. That's what this is about, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All
Why
right.
you just might
Not, not,
need it.
yeah, why you just might need this as opposed to GRMS versus ham radio versus CB radio.
Okay. I
How
guess
many
we all
different
just need more.
things can you use?
Right. That's exactly what I was getting at. I need more radios. I just didn't know it, apparently.
You pick up your box and you have one of every service available known to man. All right. So multi-use radio service has been around a while. It's not something that I had heard anything about until about a year ago while I was watching some podcast. Um, I thought the person that was giving their presentation actually said Mars, and so I kind of just looked over it a little bit. Wasn't really that interested in it. And then I went back and rewatched it because it didn't sound like Mars that he was talking about. So that's when I heard him say multi-use radio service, and so this is what it is, why you just might need it. Nope. Just a quick rundown of who I am. Y'all have known me for a while. I'm operator for 22 years. GMR operator for a month. Former president of the club. Love radio and radio technology. All right, so we're going to start with the basics here. MURS, as with all federal and government things, acronyms, that it is an acronym for multi-use radio service. It was developed and established in the fall of 2000. It was the former industrial business / business VHF frequencies between 151, 154 megahertz. That's where a lot of the old Part 90 business radios were. That does include the blue and green dot frequencies that we'll take a look at here. Um, so a lot of people have heard about blue and green and orange and star and these different frequency names, and this encompasses blue and green dot. So this has got 5 channelized frequency. There is no VFO on any of these radios. You can't tune around. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Those are your options for use. So what is it? It's a private two-way short distance voice or data communication service for portable or business activities of the general public. Anybody can use them. Similar to CB, as it's license free and it is a radio technology, so anybody can buy it and just start using it at their leisure. Open to the public. One of the big things about it is it's no license required. That's kind of a big deal, and we'll discuss why here later on. Any U.S. citizen or business can use them, so it's not limited to personal use, but also businesses can use them. Um, some of the examples of those: Walmart, Sam's Club stores, and Costco use them as their primary communications. So that's what their little radios that they carry on their sides. That's what they are. They are MURS radios, which is perfectly fine. And I think it's, as far as business, it's makes a lot of sense because you can save a lot of money on licenses for on business licenses per store. So it's a really good option for those. Also perfect for outdoors. As y'all know, 2 meter works very well outside. We're on UHF that generally will penetrate walls and things better than 2 meters, so it's perfect for outdoor use. Um, you get very very decent range, and I have some maps in here pretty soon that you can see in my testing that I've done some of the ranges that I've been able to get. So who is eligible? Since there's no license required issued for MURS within the United States, any person is authorized to use MURS frequencies given that you are not a foreign government or representative of a foreign government. That's just like with ham, just like with GMRS, just like with pretty much every FCC governed frequency band. Use the transmitter in accordance with 407 CFR, or as we call it, Part 95, 95.1309. And then the actual radio and the users operate in accordance with the rules contained in sections 95, 1301 to 1309. That information comes straight from the FCC, so it's kind of like a what? The radio does have to be type accepted, Part 95J type accepted. So there are some rules that the radio has to strictly follow. That is one of the important pieces there, is it does have to be type accepted in order to be legal. Now, the Baofeng UV5Rs, while they are extremely popular, they are capable of operating on MURS. They are not Part 95J certified, so you can use them, just not technically legal. I don't think that if you use a Baofeng on MURS that you're going to have FCC agents knocking down your door. Probably not going to happen, but if you do want to follow the rules, they are not MURS type accepted and not MURS legal. Some of the things you can do. You can transmit voice, data, telemetry, image signals, and we have some examples coming up here. If you're not a ham operator and you want to use MURS for telemetry and telecommand, you can do that. Actually, no, you cannot. I'm sorry. That is an error right there. That is an error that I put in there, that you cannot use for balloons, but you can use it for other ground-based telemetry and telecommand functions. There are height restrictions as far as the antenna, how far off the ground it can be, which would limit its aero functions. You can use it for security cameras, wireless weather stations, security systems in your house, remote control devices like RC cars and things like that, but you're not really going to find very many RC devices running on MURS. Some of the restrictions and locations that you have to abide by, you can use it in all 50 states. This includes Washington, D.C., even though they think that they're their own land. Any U.S. territory such as Guam, Puerto Rico, who else? Like the U.S. Virgin Islands, any FCC governed area, you can use these in without having to sign up and get a license. Just like an amateur radio, you can use them on boats, aboard any vessel of the United States with the permission of the captain, while the vessel is traveling either domestically or international waters. So this is this does cover ships, and I think that there's one ship registered in the United States, and it floats around Hawaii somewhere. But this also does include small boats, like pontoon boats. If you're going to go out with family and you're going to have multiple boats, or you want to be able to keep in contact with your family out there and you're out there on the water, you can do that as long as the captain of that boat approves. So that is something that you can do. As I said, that's the rules go for hams. No difference there at all. That's something that we're accustomed to. Here's some of the can't do's. You cannot use it to interconnect with public switch network, meaning you can't connect it to a telephone or a phone patch. That is against the rules and not allowed. MURS transmissions cannot be continuous. Now, there's kind of a weird little thing right here. It can't be continuous, but there is no duration in the rules that say how long it cannot be. These little Retevis RV22s have 180-second timeout, and a lot of the software that I've downloaded to try have 180-second timeout on them, but it says it can't be continuous, but it doesn't say how long. So I interpret that as, you know, control yourself and no beacons allowed. Transmission power is 2 watts max. Period. The end. Stop. You cannot go over 2 watts. Excuse me. Of transmit power. Now that is not ERP. That's actual transmission power out of the radio. And the reason I say that is because external antennas, third-party antennas, are allowed. There is no repeater usage, so that is going to give you a range limitation there, but they're not really designed for repeaters. It is prohibited from use on aircraft. These do have height restrictions, and aircraft go well above the usage allowance that the FCC puts out. So no use on aircraft. Use it as a if you're a business, say an FBO, you can use them while on the ground, but just not while flying. So here's some of the technical data. 5 frequencies, channelized. You have no VFO at all. So you just get to select, you turn the radio on, and you choose your frequency 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. These are the emission types: 11K2F3E. That's 11.25, 11,025 kilohertz. F3E is FM, so 11.25 kilohertz narrowband FM, or 20K0F3E, or 20 kilohertz FM. That's how. That's how how you read that. So here are the frequencies. These are the 5 that are designated for MURS. Each one of them has a frequency, its bandwidth, MURS 1, 2, 3, and then blue dot and green dot. Some of the alternate names I found out there online were MURS 1 is the call channel, MURS 2 is safety, MURS 3 emergency prepper, and then blue dot and green dot. In order for your transmitter to qualify as a type accepted, it does have to have a 2.5 kilohertz transmitter deviation. It has to be within 2.5 kilohertz of deviation there, otherwise it falls out of compliance. External antennas allowed. You probably will not find a MURS specific radio antenna, excuse me. But if you were to buy, say, a Nagoya antenna and you were to trim it down, or any other kind, and you were to trim it down to work on MURS, that would be fine. So external antennas allowed as long as your transmitter doesn't go over 2 watts of actual transmit power. So here are some of the applications. Personal, family use. So I have 2 of these little cheap radios here, Retevis. These are nice little radios. I took one, I gave it to my middle son Isaac. I said, all you have to do, I'm going to give you a frequency. You go to channel 1, and you turn this knob. 3, 1. You go to channel 1, and then you have a push to talk. That's all there is to it. You don't have to worry about any kind of settings. You can set custom settings using programming software, but as far as using these, there's no one of the things to be Part 95J accepted is you cannot have front panel programming cannot be done. So no front panel programming. It's all, if you're going to program something or change a setting, it has to be done in software, including power, which is kind of a pain, but that's how it is. Inexpensive radios that are not junk. So for the longest time, none of the big, Midland or Motorola, for the longest time, didn't put out MURS radio. It was like, MURS, what? Go away. The Chinese companies, Retevis, Baofeng, I think actually it's BTEC, and a couple of other little Chinese. TYT, I think, has a MURS radio. There was nothing out there, so nobody used it, and it wasn't until just recently, within the past couple of years, that because these companies were putting out radios that are compliant, they're starting to catch on. So around here, I've got this radio scanning. I haven't heard any noise. I haven't heard any kind of interference or anything. It's been quiet, but when I give this to my son or I give it to my wife and we go down the road, we're doing whatever, we can talk, without any kind of issues. And my son can just talk. He doesn't have his ham radio license yet, so this is perfect. Even though they're inexpensive, they're still Type 95J accepted. And as I said, 5 channel options. Keep it easy. Hey, turn it on. Go to channel 2, that's where we're going to be. Stay there. And that's it. On, channel, and then talk. The advanced features can be programmed as needed using the software. I have used the software to program a custom PL in these. Usually, these radios will come with a PL of 67 set. I don't know why that's the going number, but that's generally what it is, and that can be changed. I changed these to a D503 digital PL. That just happened to be the number that I selected. So you do have the subaudible tones, which can technically give you more channels and privacy, but so that is all built in there, and it works very well. This is the radio that I just had in my hand. I don't know if I can be seen in the video itself, but this is the radio I was just holding up. I bought this radio. It came with the radio, the battery, the drop-in charger, the clip. What is that? The wall wart, a little hand strap, a user's manual that was in English. I was really surprised. And then it also came with a really nice earpiece. Usually we get the little earbud type with our amateur radios, but this came with one of those kind that is discreet and has the little clear tube that fires sound into your ear. So that came as a kit. This is another one. This is by Retevis also. This one's a little bit nicer. It's dust and waterproof. Still same amount of power. The antenna, I believe the antenna on that one is, well, I'm not going to speculate. It looks like it might be able to be removed, but it comes with all the same stuff there. It's more expensive, but it's a nicer radio. This RT27V was $18 a piece, so I bought 2 of them for testing, where the RT47 was $45. The 47 is a nicer radio. I mean, it's like I said, it's dust and water resistant. Where if I drop this RT27 into water, it's probably gonna nuke it. So if you have kids and you wanna give it to them and they destroy it, you're not really out of that much money and can replace it at a low cost. They are interoperable. They both do the same exact thing. So some of the applications for business, commercial, and nonprofits. Like I said, commercial use is allowed. Walmart uses it. And there's quite a few companies out there that will use it. It's perfect for nonprofits. Um, like I said, it's perfect for nonprofits because there's no licensing fees. Now, if you've ever, I had the joyous experience of getting a businessman license for my church here. The safety team purchased new radios, business quality radios, business band radios, without any real kind of consultation. They just, hey, you know what? These look like they will work. Buy them. And when I found out about that, I said, hey, you're going to have a license for this. And they're like, okay, that's no problem. And it's $600. And they like choked. No licensing fees for these radios. You just pick it up and you go. There's no registration, no nothing. You just grab it and go. Good for smaller operations. I mean, if you have a large business, you'll want probably something a little bit more complex than a MURS radio, but good for small operations. Good for charities, churches, and we purchased some MURS radios at my church for the children's department, and have been very, very surprised and very happy with the use of them. We've had no issues at all. If we get some sort of interference, just change the channel, and everybody's good to go. We can use them out on the road, use them wherever. They work very well. This is a newish radio. It's been out for about 6 months or so. Made by some people call it Waxen. Their actual name is Ocean. The KG805M. It's built on the platform of the KG7 something. I can't remember what the model number of it is. So there's a lot of accessories out there. This radio is designed to be kind of the middle of the market. It's got good quality, a good looking screen on it, accessories, but it's not a blister pack piece of junk. This one was about $80. It's would be considered the mid grade. This is what we bought at our church for the children's department, and like I said, they work very, very well. This is the Motorola version. If it's Motorola, it's automatically going to have a higher price tag. This one was $189. These two radios are interoperable. You can use the programming software on the left to program them, and there's some tricks to where you can change things using the buttons on the Motorola, but they will still play friendly together. They still transmit 2 watts, so they're both great radios. I have used that mid grade, the Ocean one. I've used that one time and time again, and been very happy with its performance. On top of the ones that I actually have purchased here, these little cheap ones. So they all play together and they all work well. Some of the other things that you can use for doorbells, video cameras. A lot of video cameras will use MURS because they have good range, good bandwidth. Telemetry. This little thing right here is something that's come out recently. It's pretty neat. So if you have, say you have a long driveway, you can hook this piece right here. You can connect to a like an entryway door or a gate or something like that, and then set the base station up at your house. And when somebody comes through your driveway, it will set off an alarm or set off an alert, and you can actually talk back to them. So that's something as far as like data usage that you can that do exist out there. Really, really pretty neat for what it is. So Cert, EmComm, and prepper use. These are these are going to be my opinions here. These and I give you these applications based on my opinion, the research that I've done, and the reason I say that will be evident here pretty pretty soon. Not because the evil government is tracking you or anything like that. There's none of that because there's no licensing. They do have good transmission coverage due to the transmit power, and they operate on the 1.9 meter band, so just right around our 2 meter area. External aftermarket antennas are allowed. Now, 2 watts of transmit power, I have found, will cover a small city like Hurst, Euless, and Bedford. Now, that's going to be individually. That's not going to be collectively. You're not going to get Hurst and Bedford coverage with low power like this, and then also not being outside, or excuse me, not having like an external antenna way up in the air. There are antenna restrictions, but I mean, it's 2 watts of power, and it's designed for small, close quarters. So those may be good for that. This is why I say this is my opinion, and why. So we have the 5 channels, and as many of you know, for 5 years, as when I was president, I programmed, I would probably say, hundreds of radios. People coming in all the time, new Cert members coming in, needing radios programmed, and then they look at their radio and it's confusing, and there's no channel memorizations like uLocal and vLocal and anything like that. You don't have to mess with that. Turn it on, you set your channel, and you go. So changes are easy as saying, all right, switch to channel 2. You don't have to memorize any of the those designated Cert frequencies. And one of the things that I discovered while I would do all those programmings were there were people who'd come in who wanted to participate in Cert, but they had no interest. They didn't want to get their ham license. They didn't want to get their GMRS license. They didn't want to learn a new technology. They just wanted, this is what the Cert people say, this is what I have, and that's what I'll use. So a lot of people they didn't want to get their ham license. I mean, it's a technical hobby. Not everybody cares. Let's just be honest. So this is a perfect fit because for those that didn't want to get that, then they were assigned an FRS radio. That's a UHF, a half a watt of transmit power. And they work fine for what they are. They're very busy, but this, in my opinion, is a better solution for that because they are. I mean, they're just so low cost and they work so well. All right, so some of the advertised ranges are amazing, and you'll find this on just about anything. 5 miles, 10 miles. Here's my favorite one: 35 miles. If you believe the advertised ranges, that's impressive. That's just wow. But let's talk about it, realistic expectations. If you're on a mountain and somebody's down in a valley, you might get 10 miles, 35 miles. You might get those ranges. But if you are just realistically using these around town or your neighborhood, generally line of sight is going to be max out about 5 to 10 miles. In perfect conditions, you might get 5 to 10 miles. Normal expectations, excuse me. Normal expectations are going to be 1 to 5 miles, especially around here. So I did a lot of highly scientific testing. I gave my son a radio, and I took a radio, and we drove around, and I would go somewhere and call out and say, "Can you hear me?" And he would respond back, "Yes, I can hear you." I took one of these radios and I set it to the frequency of the radio at church, and I went to church and I called out when I got there, and Carrie said, "Hey, you got to I can hear you just fine. You got a little bit of bacon frying on your signal, but other one you're doing good." That was about 1.5 miles. So 1.5 miles with a good signal with a little bit of noise is not bad. So as you can see, highly scientific testing. This is a map of that test that I did where I took a radio or I left a radio set to the church frequency. Um, Blue is church, red is my house, and with 2 watts back and forth, no problem at all. And this is you can see this is you got Norwood, there's Bedford Road, Brown Trail. So that was pretty good. That was not a bad test right there. It worked very well. This is my elevation line of sight map. So I got a good, decent report, even with having to go through some terrain there. It was about 2.04 kilometers, which I believe comes out to about just shy of 1.5 miles. So I was relatively happy with those results, especially having to go through some terrain. So the summary. It's been around since 2000. It's former Part 90 LMR service, now 95J, Part 95 subsection J. No licenses required. 5 channelized frequencies with no VFO, no scanning, on a channel that you can't transmit on. It's just 1 through 5. That's it. You don't get any scanning outside of those. The radios will scan the MURS frequencies, but nothing else. 2-watt max transmitter power, not 2-watt max ERP. So if you have a really good antenna, I mean, you could have a 3 dB antenna that doubles that. That's okay as long as your radio is actually transmitting 2 watts maximum out of the radio itself. External antennas permitted. So personal, commercial, business, nonprofit, as we said, all those are completely permitted and legal to use. Voice, data, video, images, all perfectly fine. The equipment is generally inexpensive, which is always a good thing. If you want a service to take off, the best way is to get inexpensive equipment. No beacons or repeaters, only radio to radio or simplex operations. So that is a summary. It's a win-win for your EmComm arsenal. So if you want another radio to hang on your bag, this might be a good one to consider. I think it will start to take off, especially once you get more and more radios put into blister pack radios in a store. I think you'll find more use. Right now, it's kind of started off slow, but it's picking up. I've seen more and more manufacturers offering MURS radios, so it will pick up, and I think it's going to be very good as more come online. So my final thoughts. That is why you need MURS in your ham radio GMRS EmComm family business hobbyist toolbox. Whew. Any questions at all?
Chris, it sounds to me like, in a sense, it sounds like this is going to wind up being